Okay, live stream the meeting. Oh, I see Zoom has more options now. Ooh, I have to check it out after the meeting then. Goed. Hoppa, dat was een oude opname. Right. Yeah, when I start recording this meeting on YouTube, it also starts playing our last meeting. I have no idea why. So, but we're done. Hey, good morning, Brian. Or afternoon, rather.
Good afternoon, evening. Yeah. Good morning.
So it's maybe been a while that we were all together with all the dev days and.
You switch on your camera.
My camera. Ah, right. Start video.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah. Uh-oh.
We are live.
So good morning. Been a while. Now we're all back from dev days and so on. Work has continued, so I thought we better have a stand up again. So let's draw up. Let's see if I can share a screen. Let's share my screen for the nice Matrushka effect. Yes. And let's see if we can draw up an agenda for today. So maybe in general, release 1.3 something maybe want to discuss, and plans for 1.4. Now let's double check our meetings from last time to see the wiki notes. I think we have some action items here. Okay, let's see what's left of those. Now, any other items? No, hearing none.
Like I talked about earlier, I started on the external terminology service interface at the work group meeting. So, yeah. So I don't know if it's of any interest right now, but that's what I've been working on.
So you've been extending the interface that we have in the API?
Yeah, added some methods from the service module, or what you call it in the specification, the terminology service module. And I'm going to push it at some time, and then we can discuss the how it looks like, the signatures and stuff.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Extending an API is always a bit hard because we would break the public service, right?
What I did was I obsoleted the existing validate code method, and then I tried to make them more kind of, I don't know if I should call it general or what I should call it, but yeah, the signatures are a bit different. I'm passing in the parameters as a parameter attribute, as a parameters collection, instead of having separate parameters for each of the.
When do you want to discuss that?
I think it's better for the next meeting. So, what I noticed was that it's a lot of work to get the terminology fallback service to work and the local terminology service to work. That's a lot of work. But the external terminology service, that's more or less easy, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. We can discuss that next time if you prefer. Maybe it means we have to define a new or an additional interface, because I think as long as we're in the 1.x, we simply cannot change the current interface.
Yeah.
Because if we add a method to an interface, everyone who has implemented it has to add that method, which I think is a breaking change.
Yep.
But you know, we can probably fix that by either deriving a new interface from this one or creating a new one, and then there are tricks we can pull to make that compatible with 1.x, but we can discuss that next time.
Yeah.
Right. Anyone else? Brian, have you been working on something lately? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I started working on our R4 questionnaire stuff. So I'm not sure whether that's going to be shareable or not, but some of it might be. Certainly the interfaces we need into the firepath engine to get at the environment variables will need to be fixed if they're not working.
Oh yeah. Because we discussed that last time, but I'm going to start working on the firepath engine. I think later this week or next week, for the rest of the summer, and make sure it's normative. But this is one of the items that are of interest. I remember Kenneth wanting to have a shot at changing things, but then I remember that the trick we wanted to do is to introduce them like we introduce our functions, right? So with the symbol table.
One more time, Evert.
Well, I remember we talked about introducing environment variables through the same principles as adding custom functions to the symbol table in firepath.
Yeah, variables, not environment variables.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those are different things. I mean, environment variables is something you'd like to pass in every time you invoke a firepath statement. For example, they're more variable than a symbol table, a fixed symbol table with the function. So I think we need to introduce another mechanism because we don't really have anything for passing in environment variables at the moment.
Yeah. And I put up an example on the issue just to look at if it would benefit us in some way or another. Like, would it be easier to write them? But I'm not actually convinced myself. So
You got the issue number, because I'm going to be coding this in the next couple of days.
let's see. You remember, Evert?
There it is, 884. Resource and context mix-up, is that it?
Well, that's one I noticed. Oh, here, I think add support for defining your own variables. This must be the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
900.
Yeah, so that's one. The other one indeed is a bug. I noticed in the code, but that's different. I was looking at whether I have it. The .resource and .context have been mixed up in the constructor.
Okay.
So
Actually,
they align all the time, but it could be problematic.
yeah, I'll look through it. Cool. And yeah, I was interested in that external terminology stuff as well. It's not at the top of my stack. It's a fair bit down, but it was more around variables in firepath. Yeah. Yep.
So Brian, you're going to look into it?
Yeah, I'll be doing that. Do you reckon if you've got it open, I'll get it open and tag myself?
Yeah, just make sure that, let's just offline get in touch about what you want to do to it and sync a little bit, because I'm also going to work on it. So like, be sure that we're not bothering each other and creating merge conflicts too much.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be simple. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so too. In general, I'm going to revise the firepath engine in the sense that it needs to be based on the same things that I did now for the mapping language. Since the mapping language has firepath integrated, we now have two engines, right? The mapping language engines, which is not open source, but part of it will need to be. And firepath is actually part of the mapping language, and that means that currently I'm using both engines and they're calling each other, which is a pain. So I need to unify them. This is what I'm going to do over the next weeks. Part of it is converting the grammar, the parser from Sprache to Superpower.
Okay. Yep.
And part of it is that the mapping language in the mapping. So you might remember that the firepath, I translate the syntax tree into a whole set of lambdas. But for the mapping language, I went one step further and actually generated link.expression. So I think I'm gonna try the same thing for firepath.
So you'd still have the abstract syntax tree in between, or still
the syntax tree is unchanged and will remain unchanged. But I had to introduce new nodes for the mapping language, like function definitions, like groups in the mapping language. And there's a few things, so I simply added a few nodes. But the code generation for these nodes is now different than the code generation for the other nodes. And that's, of course, something we need to unify, otherwise this will become a maintenance burden.
Yep.
In general, I noticed that in the firepath engine, that's better. Thanks, Marco. I was doing a lot of things, like I had built my own stack, really, like put variables on the stack in the call and then take them off. And I was like, why am I completely rebuilding a runtime? And now with the mapping language, I've actually used link.expressions to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to take a look at making that work.
Yep.
But that's yeah. It's going to be some
Can you
work.
come and put my blind down as well, Marco?
Sudoku? Sorry?
Can you put my blind down?
Okay. I can come over.
I don't know.
Takes a while.
Can you log into your home into your home control system?
Beep. The Superpower is the next version of the Spruck library, isn't it?
The same.
Yeah.
The same,
Yeah, it's the same
manufacturer.
author. He just abandoned Sprache.
Yeah.
And the arrows are much clearer, which is for multi-line
Oh yeah, that was it.
program like the mapping language.
Yeah.
So, but since the mapping language is a subset of firepath, it makes total sense to have one platform for both.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that. Oh yeah, it is. So I'm also going to incorporate the changes I already made, but still in the branch. For firepath normative. This is actually, here's an
Is
interesting.
that going to be in a new branch, a new code, or are we going to put that stuff into the old one?
It's a good question. I'm thinking about first integrating these changes into the old one, and then start porting it.
So it takes the pressure off your new port.
Yes, exactly. Also, in the meantime, that might be of interest here too. Marco is splitting of firepath into its own repository. So the problem is, of course, that we have currently a copy of all three branches.
Yeah.
And of course, what happens if you have a copy? There start to be differences between the copies. Unwanted difference. Brian, you tripped on one once. where it all compiles fine, because we compile and test each of these branches separately, but we distribute only the copy in R4. So everything may test fine, and then you start working with it, you get runtime failures because the public interface is different after all. And we had so many maintenance problems with this that Marco and I got fed up a long time ago, but we were too busy to do anything about it. And so now,
yeah, I'm just splitting up the firepath test for at the moment to have POCO dependent test and POCO less independent, independent test. And that's the first step. And if that works fine, then we can take it out of the API and put it in the separate repositories. The end result will be the same because we still have a firepath package. That's what the end result will be. But it's actually a bit different organized in different repositories. That's what the plan is. So the firepath will have a, how do you call it, a cycle,
a different
cycle, less frequently than the API probably. So, and it follows the specs of the firepath.
Is that same area going to have support, element model, and serialization in it?
Ha, that's a good question, because I was going to add, and that's why I'm making this a separate thing on our agenda, split of firepath. There's more to say about this. It also means that since firepath uses element model and support, those need to be split up too. But
it should not be.
Huh?
It's not really necessary.
Otherwise, you get circular references, because otherwise.
Well, at this moment, the element doesn't. Well, in the future, it will be referencing firepath, but at the moment, it doesn't.
So I wonder. We've been puzzling about whether this needs to be a separate repo, or it's already a separate NuGet package. So there are no real circular dependencies between the packages. But it's interesting if you want to develop software, if we are working on changes in elements and the firepath engine also has to change while this is in a different project in a different repository. Because you get in the situation where to test stuff you already need a compiled version of the new library, but that new library is also being used because it's being used by firepath.
Well, you don't have to upgrade it every time.
No.
If your firepath still works fine, if it's new features for elements, it's for other parts of the API. Okay, really necessary for firepath can upgrade the firepath project to that new element.
Yeah, well, and
so it's not really necessary
because of the diamond problem otherwise. So I think the firepath DLL will need to be updated with a new library as soon as we push a new guide, because otherwise included on the package you have a diamond problem. Yeah, but I mean we draw this out on the whiteboard and we were pretty sure that it would work out, but we're going to see. We need to move in any case, because it really feels that like firepath is a different product. It's managed by a different group within HL7. It's also part of it's used by CQL too. So there's something going on there. So maybe that means, Brian, and I saw you shaking yes vehemently, that we also have all the common generic stuff that is not almost not FHIR specific, like element model, into a separate repo too.
Yeah, especially when it's the same across all three versions and then the current, what will be 5.
Yeah, so maybe one idea, maybe you were suggesting that, is that we put that stuff in the firepath project.
Yeah, just have them, so because they're all essentially going to get worked on at the same time, so you might as well have them all in the same bucket.
Yeah.
Rather than having another one and then another one and another one.
You get initially you would get something like a non-FHIR version specific stuff repository. But I think in the end we'll see that firepath. Well, firepath is unusable without those things.
Yeah. I'd be happy from a repo naming perspective, just call the repo the firepath repo.
Yeah, and we already have that. I just have to revive it. Yeah.
But that means also support, right? That support vector should also be good there.
So it'd be firepath, element model, and support. All three of those things in the one repo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not sure whether you'd want to throw serialization into that bucket or not.
Yeah, that would be the next step, right?
Yeah. Because I think that then becomes the last of the version independent parts.
Yes, true.
As long as they are actually different, looking at it, I suspect.
In the outcome, there is no change, right? Because when we compile it into packages, it's still at the same structure that we have now. It's only organized in a different manner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from that perspective, I'm fine with that. Let's sleep.
Yeah, we are to do something. What is probably true though is that we of course are dying to sunset DSU2. So Marco and I have been looking at compiling a DS. Before I'm switching firepath to normative, I think I should freeze the current firepath into a firepath DSU2 DLL, because there are some changes are incompatible, and I think HL7 is only going to publish technical updates to SU3 and 4 for these normative changes. So if we make DSU2 also depend on the new normative firepath, that means we would have to go over the firepath stuff in DSU2 and fix those.
Do we know what the scale of that is?
Actually, we don't. Maybe it's really small scale.
If it's small, that might be worth it. I don't know. I'm already in a bad position where the version of firepath we're running in prod for some of the stuff is even an earlier version than what's DSU2.
Right.
So, yeah, your original implementation.
Right. Because every single version had a few incompatible new things.
Yeah.
And also, as you noticed, Brian, it also means that we have to keep on publishing DSU2 when the common libraries change.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be our hobby in the long term to that.
No.
Although maybe most of the time it just means recompilation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also work.
It's still work. And so it currently it means we can still not sunset DSU2 fully.
Maybe do we create the old DSU2 firepath as a separate namespace?
Yeah, that's what we could do.
So therefore tools like the firepath tester can keep using the latest one. But if you want to use the DSU2 core stuff, and we can add that in as an option, yeah, I think we can deal with that.
Maybe then it's better because, changing the namespace of the current stuff is a breaking change. Maybe the new firepath stuff should be in a new namespace, because it is no longer, the problem is I probably have to do that because it's no longer firepath specific. All that code is shared by the mapping language in firepath. So I'm thinking along the lines of language services or these kind of more abstract things, and then with a specific firepath and a mapping language engine that basically use the shared materials. So I think I need new namespaces anyway.
Yeah.
That will break, right? So then that's for 2.0 or something, or what?
They won't break. It's just because you'll have they'll be there, probably build there both for until we go to 2.0.
Oh yeah.
Or we introduce the new stuff into the low. I have to think about that.
Yeah, because I'm wondering whether you'd actually run both source in the same, so not a separate branch, but just have another project with hl7.firepath. Old version, and then another project with all the new stuff, rather than a separate. It'll still be a separate assembly, but it'll be the same code and the same solution. Is that making sense?
Just thinking.
So we'd end up with a firepath.dstu2 or equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
And
but that means renaming the old namespace.
And yeah, so copy what is the hl7.firepath project today to the namespace.
But that will break stuff for people, right? Or not?
Yes-ish. The changes are going to break somebody, because today we're using the firepath as if it was all the same version.
Yeah.
And so when we update it to be what it should be for R4, either it's going to break everyone there, or it's going to break everyone on the DSU2 stuff.
Yeah.
Now the namespace of the firepath stuff should actually be the version that firepath uses, not fire, right?
Well, DSU2 would point to the old one. Actually, I don't think it'd be too bad, because the DSU2 version would be having the internal references to the old firepath namespace. And so its dependencies would point to that one, not the new one. So it would only be if you had tools like mine that added the firepath engine explicitly. So anyone doing the validator stuff wouldn't be hurt, because it would be
that's right. That's right. No one. It's if you go deeper, you would have problems, because you normally use the firepath stuff either using the validator or by using the extension methods.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're using those, you won't notice the difference. It's just when you do like add symbol table init and these things that you would notice that. That's true.
Yeah. So I think that would work for me.
Yeah, but we have to be careful, as I don't know if I told you here, but we're almost at 1 million downloads of the package. So it does mean you quickly hurt someone somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, but if we already saying we just want to have the DSU2 for sunset, sunset DSU2, then we can do that, right? Because it's already not, it's an extra. Will still support it. It will we put some extra work into it. Then you can also update your things.
Yeah.
I'll let Apple know.
Sorry?
I'll let Apple know.
Yeah.
Here we are. 995.291. Actually, if you count our unlisted packages, we've passed the point a long time ago, but they're unlisted, so I don't count those.
What else are those packages?
Very nice.
Well, so there are 136,000 too. You see, only 19,000 R4.
Yeah, but it's not.
And that's still the old version. Oh no, is that the new one? That's the new one.
Yeah. So this. Yeah. Well, I think these counts are for all the versions. So what is interesting is seeing the deltas, and I can tell you that R4 and DSU2 are still downloaded almost at the same speed.
Yeah.
And STU3 is really the biggest one. It's also the biggest in absolute sense, but it's also the most downloaded. And obviously, all the other libraries like support and firepath, they're downloaded with all of these, so they get nice numbers too.
Yeah.
So of course, we could actually have many more downloads if we split this up into multiple packages, because you'll all have to download all the packages if you have a distribution, so the numbers go up pretty quickly. But it's not like 1 million is important. It just means that there's a lot of people using it, so breaking an interface is something we'd be careful about. We are going to consider the balance between polarity, it's the STU2 FPath is really different from the normative. Okay. So it's going to be a lot of things changing for firepath, that's for sure. So that's why, Brian, if you're going to work on the variable stuff, we might have to sync up to see whether this doesn't conflict with Marco's work or mine. It's probably not, because it's not going to be a big change, but
no, I expect it to be pretty small.
yeah. All right. So maybe then 1.3.
Yeah.
I can say it's mostly a bug fix release. George has been working on just picking up bug by bug from the FHIR API list. So that's why if we look at the issues list now, sort on bug, and then look at the ones that are not validator related, because Marco's going to work on the validator, we can see that we are pretty much have it under control. Of course, there's a few new ones who came in. This one, May 31, I think this guy has promised me to make a pull request, so I'm not yet doing 997. 999 actually, I think is waiting for an answer from Marco. And or no, sorry, 988. And 999, I still have to look at it. But otherwise, it's all about slicing errors, slicing. Actually, this one, circular references, George has been working on it too. So, but we're going to pull that only in 1.4. So that very old one will disappear. So we're pretty much under control. These are all the bugs.
Cool.
And there's certainly some. So as soon as we work on the validator, and these ones will go. It's not like many new ones come in, so it's okay. Pull requests, I've almost done all of them. I still have to do loops, but I don't want to mess with that in 1.3, so we'll have to get 1.3 out of the door. And then we have the tech circular references from instance to instance that George has been working on, so that's in 1.4. And this one I will still pull, and this will be a part of 1.3. So 1020 instant type without time zone. It turned out to be a missing. It's missing in the STU3 spec. Is that correct, George?
Yeah, the pattern is missing, but the explanation is there.
Yeah, but in the expression did exist in 4, so you more or less ported it back from 4 to 3.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Not a big thing, but the validator didn't catch using instance without a time zone because there was no regex pattern for it.
Did that go into the technical corrections that we're going to do with STU3?
It could, yeah. Yeah. It should maybe. Let's see. Did we create a default tracker item for it?
And no.
No, maybe not. Okay.
Because there's going to be a batch of that done very shortly.
Yeah.
And I think that does fit within the appropriate remit.
Oh, you're right. Okay. I'll do that before I pull this. So I'll put this in the 2003 project. Plop. So 219.3 is now almost done, as you can see by the green bar. Just this one, which is actually done developing. I should just, oh, it was already there. Yeah, that's the pull request. Okay, that's fine. Beautiful.
Has the copying of all that core project from between the projects been done? Just to make sure 2 still runs?
Sorry, can you say that again, Brian?
So all the common stuff, so that stuff we're going to split off into that other repo, has that been dragged back into DSTU2? Because I'm assuming we're going to release 1.3 before we do that split off, right?
We're going to release 1.3 before we do the other split off, yeah.
Yeah.
So far, everything is still in line, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I might run a firepath tester check across all 3, just with whatever the latest is, and see how that runs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are almost done to get the 1.3 out, right?
Well, yes, but now I realized that what we also, and I think that's what Brian is saying. I'm not sure that I made I made changes to firepath in SU3 and 4, but we should copy them to 2 and compile 2 against it. Otherwise, we get these binary incompatibility problems again.
That's the, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want me to do that step, or is one of you guys happy to do it?
Actually, I think now let me check for a second. I think at one point I just copied. Yeah, I remember copying over SU4 just across DSTU2 because I was like, it's the same thing. It turned out it wasn't, of course, mistake. But hey, what happened to my Git Kraken? It only shows Superpower now. What crap is that? Okay. That API. I remember copying over SU4 on top of SPU2. So, but let's see, where is develop? That is the purple one. Oh. Yeah, close. I think here's where I did it. I just copied 4 over 2. So it should be almost in line, but we should make sure we do this again. Yes.
Should we get a GitHub issue?
Maybe that's better. Or what I can also do here in our projects.
Oh, okay, sure.
I can sync STU2, STU3, R4 by merging 3 to 4, and then copy 4 over STU2, more or less. That's the
yeah.
Before releasing 1.3. Okay.
Yeah.
It's to be done. All right, I think I'll aim for that today or tomorrow. So I need to be careful.
Yeah.
I have to leave for another meeting. I see you guys next time.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
So 1.3 mostly bug fix release and some additions to element node class actually, element node class to support the mapping engine.
Yep.
To be released, I'm going to say this week. I think we should be able to do that.
Cool.
The 1.4 release, as I said, I will be working on new firepath / language infrastructure, and Marco will work on the validator.
Actually, I'll try and get the environment variable stuff in for the 1.3 release.
What was that again? Sorry, Brian?
I'll try and get the environment variable stuff in firepath for the 1.3 release if that's where it's going.
Yeah, it has to be soon, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I can work on it tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Then if it's too impactful, we might have to wait until 1.4.
Yeah.
But we'll know when you've done it, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's this big.
Yeah. So also third bullet here, George is working on that, or is going to work on that. There is a difference between the client in SU3 and R4 that has to do with the two pull requests that came for that new FHIR client. And so part of it is in R4 and none of it is in SU3. So you will always get merge conflicts now if you merge from 3 to 4. Yeah. So I've asked George to inventorize first what we need to do, and also if it's still good for us to pull one of these pull requests with this new web client, because I guess that's the future way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then let's take a look at the action items from last time. Okay.
No. Yeah, that was done. They pulled out, so it's declaring where it was. No action. We haven't had that chat. That's the summary of my ones.
I think you moved the web API to a new repo. And
yeah, that's all done and working well. Actually, there was one question on that. I wanted to put that in as a package and push that out. The strong name key that you guys are using, do we want this to, or should I be running this through a Brian Poss package stuff, or could I push it through the Filey team stuff? If you understand the question.
Yeah. Yeah, you mean for publication?
Yeah, for the NuGet package.
I think my preference is to go via Brian P.
No worries. It'll be another week or two before I actually do it. So if you change your mind, let me know.
Yep. That's okay. Yeah, generate the implementation of the ICE summary dev provider. It would still be really cool.
Yeah. I will get that done one day.
So I need to keep it on the list.
Actually, do you want to just create an issue in the API for it? An enhancement issue. And then we can take it off the action item and I'll just pick it when I can. Actually, I'll do it. Generate new issues. Hi, summary dev provider.
Let's say Marco and Ewout now, at least. George, do you remember what is create an issue to sync the I backbone element and FHIR type approaches?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't done it yet, but I think I know what this is about.
What was it about?
In one of them, I think in STU3, we had the implementation of I backbone element in one class, and in R4 we had an attribute to check for it.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I copped that one as well.
Sorry? You got that one too?
I
Yeah.
experienced that one too, yeah.
I think we should take this into, we should put this into the, in our issue list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verify it's creating an issue.
Oh, create an issue. Yeah, so it's yeah, create an issue. Yeah. So that we should do pretty quickly. Otherwise, we will forget about this.
Yeah, I'll do it today.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's about it. Unless we have more. You want? All right.
We make like a deadline for when we are going to release the 1.3, because Brian said he's going to do something for tomorrow. So, but I just don't want to have it on the Friday 4 o'clock or something to get it out.
No.
So please say maybe that we do it on Thursday or something like that, or
so we can say that latest
so that we can plan it.
addition to the code to be in GitHub on.
Do you want to do another? Do you want to do another 15-minute meeting in 2 days from now? This time?
Okay. So Wednesday then, like if so, Brian suggested the meeting 15 minutes meeting.
Yeah.
On 11 o'clock Dutch time.
Yep.
You want a meeting on Wednesday at the same time?
Yep. And so then we can talk through
Yeah.
I've gotten that that stuff done, and then you've got time to do a release.
Okay. We'll call this the release meeting on Wednesday 11, and it is European summertime.
That's the same slot we're on now, right?
Yeah.
We're on now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I think I can do that.
Me too.
Same time, same place. Thank you. Any more? If not,
Yeah, so that George, that issue that you've got, that was so that you could actually serialize and store any backbone element, like a practitioner qualification, right?
yeah, I don't know if you can. Maybe, yeah. Is that an issue, or is that a feature request, or?
That's it used to always work, and the latest one broke it. And it looks like that issue, so maybe I'll have another look at it.
Okay. And if not, then we need an issue in the GitHub list.
Yeah, I'll check.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks for your attention, and speak to you later.
Yep.
Okay.
In a couple of days.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Cheers.